Unsafe manual handling is the most common cause of work-related injuries. These injuries cause personal suffering and loss of income, and also cost businesses and national economies. Manual handling is any activity involving the use of muscular force or effort to lift, move, push, pull, carry, hold, throw, or restrain any object. It covers more than lifting heavy weights and affects more than the back. Injuries that arise from hazardous manual handling are commonly known as musculoskeletal disorders, or MSDs. Any worker can be affected, yet MSDs can be prevented by assessing work tasks, consulting with co-workers, putting in place preventive measures, and checking that these measures stay effective. Topics covered in this program include musculoskeletal disorders, including how your back works. It could happen to you. Manual handling risk factors, including 7 case studies, and principles of safe manual handling. Unsafe manual handling practices can lead to a variety of musculoskeletal disorders, or MSDs. Examples of MSDs include sprains and strain of muscles, ligaments and tendons, back injuries, joint injuries or degeneration, bone injuries, for example, fractures, soft tissue hernias, for example, abdominal hernias. An MSD may occur suddenly as a result of a single event of overexertion, or it may develop over a prolonged period from the accumulation of many minor tissue injuries. Before we proceed, let's have a look at how your back works so that you understand how it can be injured. Your spine comprises 24 bone blocks called vertebrae. Between each vertebra are spongy but tough cushions called discs, which act as shock absorbers and give the spine its flexibility. Strong elastic ligaments hold all the vertebrae and discs firmly together in a column. Muscles are attached to the vertebrae by rubbery connections called tendons. The spine also provides a protective case for the spinal cord. Nerves from the spinal cord branch out through spaces between the vertebrae and become more exposed as the spinal column bends or twists. The spine is arranged in 3 natural curves. When these curves are in their normal alignment, the body is in a balanced position. The lower lumbar region bears the weight of the upper body, plus any weight that you are carrying. Your back has a 10:1 lifting ratio. In other words, if an object you are lifting weighs 12 kilograms, then the pressure placed on your lower back when lifting will be 120 kilograms. However, this ratio increases the further the object is away from you, and consequently, the risk of back injury will also significantly increase. What are some examples of musculoskeletal disorders, or MSDs? Richard damaged his back in a workplace injury.
Well, we're refurbishing the factory and I was helping my mate lift some equipment and I didn't realise how heavy it was going to be.
While team lifting a heavy object, he suffered a ruptured and herniated disc.
It was a really intense pain. It was like a hot stabbing knife in the back and pain shooting down my legs.
Well, what it means is that when Richard moves from now on, the prolapse disc and the subsequent swelling that goes with it will be placing a lot of pressure on the nerve and causing him very severe pain.
So I've got 2 small children, and they don't understand that Daddy's hurt his back. I've not been able to help out around the house. My social life's non-existent. I used to go to the gym regularly, and I've had to stop that. I've put lots of weight on, which makes me feel a bit depressed, and my wife's worrying about the money side of things with being off work, so it's getting quite difficult at the moment.
Well, we have to understand that this is a chronic condition that Richard may suffer with for the rest of his life, and it's just so unfortunate that it's one of those accidents that could have so easily been prevented.
It's quite upsetting. It's a mix of emotions, really. Sort of angry at the fact you could have prevented it, and then you're sort of sad because you think about the things that you can no longer do. And it's sort of anxiety about the future because your whole life's got to change. You're sort of being told that you can no longer do a lifting job. And you're going to have to do a desk job, so you need to retrain to be able to get a desk job in the first place. So everything changes.
Pause here and discuss the ways an injury might affect your life. Manual handling injuries are often associated with demanding work conditions and heavy loads. Studies show, however, that many injuries involve relatively light loads and are caused by other handling risks. Examples of manual handling risk factors include repetitive or sustained application of force, repetitive or sustained awkward posture, repetitive or sustained movement, application of high force, including jerky or unexpected forces, exposure to sustained vibration, in combination with any of the above, and handling of loads that are unstable, unbalanced, or difficult to hold. Keep in mind that in many cases it is the frequency, duration, and repetition of the activity that increases or creates the risk. Other contributing factors include climatic variables such as heat and cold, physical fitness and age, and any combination of these. Let's have a look at some common workplace scenarios involving at-risk manual handling. Case Study 1. Hand distances from lower back. Observe the horizontal distance between this person's hands and their lower back. This person has their upper arms angled away from their body and their trunk bent, which is placing them at risk of injury because it increases pressure on the spine and arms. In this example, the upper arms are aligned vertically and the trunk is upright, creating a low risk of injury because the 3 curves of the spine are in their natural position. A mechanical aid could also be used to minimise the risk of moving and lifting. Case Study 2. Vertical lift region. Observe the position of this person's hands at the start of the lift and as the lift progresses. Here we see bending of the back to floor level and then moving the object above head height. This action has a high risk of back injury occurring because the 3 curves of the spine are not kept in their natural alignment. Here we see the object being reached above knee height and placed below shoulder height. This is within a safer lifting zone and has a much lower risk of injury. Case Study 3. Trunk twisting and sideways bending. Observe this person's trunk as the load is lifted. We can see here that the trunk both bends and twists. And here we see the operative lifting the load without twisting or bending the back, which has a low level risk of injury. Case Study 4. Load weight frequency. This person is engaged in moving light loads with high frequency. How would you rate the risk level of injury? Lifting the weight of the load may be low risk, but the high frequency and awkward posture caused by the person working with their hands above shoulder height could lead to upper limb injury if not controlled. It is for this reason that the weight of loads is not the only factor in determining the potential of injury occurring. Case Study 5. Pulling and pushing. Observe how this person is adopting an awkward posture and using high force to pull the load. Both the awkward posture and high pulling force creates a high risk of injury. Now we see this person using their whole body to push the load, which allows them to adopt a good posture. Case Study 6. Work height. Observe how this person's trunk and neck are bent and the body is hunched. If this position is held for a prolonged period, then pressure will build up on the neck and lower back. The awkward posture is due to the bench being positioned too low for the work being undertaken. To minimise the risk of injury, the bench should be adjusted to suit the individual. Case Study 7. Awkward loads. Observe how this person finds it difficult to keep the load balanced due to the awkward shape of the load. This creates strain on their shoulders and lower back, which increases the risk of injury. Loads that are unstable or unbalanced can move or change shape suddenly, or may be uneven and heavier on one side. Loads that are difficult to grasp or hold include those that have no handles, are very large, slippery or hot, or are likely to spill. These characteristics can apply sudden, unexpected forces on handlers. What are some examples of manual handling risk factors? Rushing into a task is a major cause of manual handling injuries and decreased productivity. If you identify any manual handling hazards, report them to your supervisor as soon as possible. Prior to commencing a manual handling task, you need to identify the hazards, assess the risks, and control the risks. The best way to prevent injuries is to eliminate the manual handling task by using mechanical aids such as a forklift. If manual handling cannot be avoided, mechanical aids can also minimise the effort required to handle loads. Mechanical aids should reduce the force and physical effort required to handle materials and/or the need to bend or stoop, making the task easier and safer. Examples of mechanical aids include conveyors, cranes and hoists, forklifts and mobile plant, lift tables, trolleys and hand trucks, magnet or vacuum assisted lifters, and a vast array of other devices. Become familiar with the mechanical aids at your workplace. Know how to use them and where to find them. Good workplace and task design also reduces the risk of manual handling injuries occurring. Where possible, items used in manual handling tasks should be placed to ensure that they are in front of the person, between waist and shoulder height, close to the midline of the person, on the person's preferred side, positioned within comfortable reaching distance, and positioned to avoid double handling and to avoid moving loads manually over long distances. Manual handling injuries often occur as a result of obstructions or protrusions getting in the way of handlers while moving loads to their destination. For this reason, you need to plan the lift, plan the route, clear the destination, and adopt safe lifting techniques. Assess the load before you lift. Is the load too large or bulky, too heavy, or hard to grip? Could the load move suddenly, or is there an uneven weight distribution? If the weight is unknown, contact your supervisor. Can the load be lightened by breaking it down into individual units? Will help be needed with the load? Don't lift or handle more than can be easily managed. There is a difference between what people can lift and what they can safely lift. Use mechanical aids or assistance in the first place if required. Can a stepladder or work platform be used for objects above shoulder height? Climbing up onto equipment and jumping down from it are frequent causes of injury, as you're creating extra pressure on your back. Don't stoop. Change the working height. Where is the load going to be placed? The area where you move and place loads should be clear of obstacles. Consider the working environment. Floor surfaces, steps, ramps and contaminants on floors. Obstructions related to limited housekeeping and cleaning. When lifting, always start in a good posture. Adopt a stable position. Stand close to the load with feet apart with one leg slightly forward to maintain balance, alongside the load if it's on the ground. At the start of the lift, slight bending of the back, hips and knees is preferable to fully flexing the back. Get a good hold. Where possible, the load should be hugged as close as possible to the body and waist while lifting and carrying. Keep the heaviest side of the load next to the body. If a close approach to the load is not possible, try to slide it towards the body before attempting to lift it. Move smoothly. Use the muscles of your legs when lifting. The load should not be jerked or snatched. Don't flex the back any further while lifting. This can happen if the legs begin to straighten before starting to raise the load. Do not twist the back or lean sideways, especially while the back is bent. Shoulders should be kept level and facing in the same direction as the hips. Turning by moving the feet is better than twisting and lifting at the same time. Look ahead, not down at the load, once it has been held securely. Put the load down first and then adjust it by sliding it into the desired position. If you're lifting with someone else, both of you should know what you're doing before you start. What should you consider before lifting a load? Manual handling injuries can have serious consequences on your life, resulting in long-term pain, loss of income, and a decrease in quality of life. By following safe manual handling principles, you can prevent musculoskeletal disorders happening to you or your co-workers. Before lifting and handling, plan the lift, plan the route, and prepare for the task. Use mechanical aids and assistance in the first place. Ensure you follow safe lifting techniques at all times, and report any hazards to a supervisor. Never rush in to lift an object. Your life could depend on it.